Shareholders are beginning to ask questions about Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement in Square Enix. I think the implication is that shareholders are not too optimistic that having Sweet Baby Inc. involved with the company is good for the company's bottom line. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Before we get to this question from the shareholder, let's kind of give you a brief recap on who Sweet Baby Inc. is. This is an absolutely disgusting company who makes it very clear that their mission is to inject woke ideology into video games in the form of inclusion and representation. The company's CEO, Kim Belair, has also encouraged individuals to terrify developers and executives in order to obtain her company's mission objectives. She made this very clear during a presentation at the Game Developers Conference in 2019, where she said this: if you're creative working in AAA, which I did for many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. This is who Sweet Baby Inc. is. They want to terrify people in order to push their woke ideology into the video game industry. She went on to say this, because they have to consider, I say that out loud as a joke, but it's actually very, very true. So she's claiming that it's a joke, but then she's like, oh, it's not actually a joke. It's really true. You should terrify them. Because if you start to consider the people who are player and audience facing, and you have to deal with mitigating harm and with keeping the sentiment around their game and their project positive, there's like a genuine value that you could impress upon them, both ethically and financially. You could say this is important. She's basically saying, we will unleash the social media mobs to destroy your company. That is what she is threatening right there. Because remember, this is 2019. This is when the Twitter mobs were running rampant, pushing woke ideology. Now that Elon Musk has bought the company, that is no longer the case. Interesting how that works. We also have numerous reports, the so-called Twitter files, that revealed that Twitter was suppressing people opposed to woke ideology and boosting people pushing it. They were allowing these people to run rampant. Evil stuff, evil stuff. This is the tactics that Kim Belair is also indicating that she wants people to use so she can enrich herself and be hired by these companies and push her evil ideology. She then says this: it's also a valid discussion to have, because if you're working with a thin narrative budget and you work in AAA, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised or dismayed by the amount of money that marketing can give you. So there you go, literally admitting she wants to enrich herself. She also has an animus against white gamers. She said this: I think our industry, and in so many creative industries, if you want to look at film and television, any art form, we start treating our core demographics as a fixed and static value, something that does not want to change and something that is locked in place. So despite the changing face of audiences, despite the changing face of conferences like this one, we still look at our core demographics and say, okay, they're white, cis, hetero males, obviously using pejoratives there, kind of just shows you how she thinks, how she operates. And we cater almost exclusively to them. And the problem is that we don't just cater to them like, you know, here's something that we think you'll enjoy. We cater to them like a picky baby. So she's literally describing white gamers, white male gamers, as picky babies. This person is disgusting. She went on and said, we feed the same thing that we know that they love, and we keep on feeding it. We're like, here you go. We know you love it. Eat this, eat this, eat this. So when they get anything else, they react as a picky baby would, which would be like, oh, no, thank you. I do not want this. So she's literally admitting that people do not want her woke ideology in video games, and she wants to force it down our throats anyways. And she goes on and says, and we've actually done this so long that what we're doing is creating an entire nation of picky babies, and they make us scared to deviate from what we actually want to do. Remember, she's now claiming that she's being scared when she's the one who is literally advocating terror as a tactic to get what she wants. Just in case these picky babies don't want to play our games. Well, as we've seen with the layoffs, maybe following Kim Belair's advice here in 2019 was a massive mistake, as numerous companies have been shut down, numerous people have been laid off, all because they decided to push this woke ideology. So she doubles down on this. Again, if you want to, you can read more into it here. We've got multiple articles on this. And then I also think this is really important here too. This is some context here as to maybe why the shareholder is asking this question. There is the Steam Curator list, the Sweet Baby Inc. detected. It now has over 400,000 gamers following it. In fact, there are 404,166 followers when I wrote the article. It is the second largest curator list on Steam, and it was literally like just created in the past year. And it's very clear that gamers are not interested in what Sweet Baby Inc. has to sell and the injection of woke ideology into video games. Because for all intents and purposes, this curator list acts as a boycott list for all games that Sweet Baby Inc. has been involved in that are available on Steam. Now, of course, the list has evolved over time. It does have actual recommendations for games that do not have woke ideology, and it also includes other games that do push wokeness, but Sweet Baby Inc. has not worked on. But still, it does, I think, act as a boycott list for all games that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on. And that's how it has functioned. And I think that is a huge problem when you're trying to sell video games and you're working with Sweet Baby Inc. and there's closing in on 500,000 gamers not being interested in those types of games. And Sweet Baby Inc. does list Square Enix on their website as one of their clients. You can see it right there. It's right underneath Valve, in between Ubisoft and Warner Brothers. Also, I would be remiss, I didn't include this in this article, but Sweet Baby Inc. did indeed work on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and Warner Brothers took a $200 million loss on that game, and has been a disaster for their entire video game sector of their company for this entire year. And then I've also documented a number of videos, a number of articles that lots of companies have shut down or have suffered significant losses or have just not had very good sales after working with Sweet Baby Inc. Obviously, Zao being the latest, Suicide Squad, as I just mentioned, being one of those. There was another game where the company like shut down. They created some kind of like pirate adventure game. So Sweet Baby Inc. is usually a death knell for video game developers. And that's why I think this shareholder asked this question. So obviously this is using a machine translation from this X user here, Mixuzu. And the shareholder asked this: I'm personally happy about the shift from quantity to quality. So obviously talking about how Square Enix announced this entire restructuring and change in vision of how they were going to operate their company. And I actually agree with this. I think this is a good idea. This is something that a lot of creative companies made a mistake about. We obviously saw this with Netflix as well. They were just kind of churning out as much as they possibly could and had basically eschewed any kind of quality, thinking that people would just buy up whatever they decided to put out. That was not the case. So I actually agree with how they've stated they are going to change their philosophy moving forward. Talked about that in a previous video. But this person goes on and says, I hope good titles will come out in the future. I'm concerned about the Canadian consulting company Sweet Baby. Square Enix is listed as a client, but is there actually a transaction there? What kind of transaction is it? Will they continue to do so in the future? So this shareholder actually asking an interesting question here. Raising the concern about Sweet Baby Inc. being involved with Square Enix. And obviously, I think there's a lot of implications here that is a negative and that could negatively impact the company moving forward. And is kind of the opposite of their focus or their claim to be focused on quality rather than quantity. And we did get an answer here. We got a translation again. The Square Enix president, Takashi Kiryu, said this: I would like to refrain from making specific comments about individual clients as we shift from quantity to quality. Providing content that is enjoyable and safe for our customers is also part of what makes a product fun. We will do our best as creators. So basically punts on it. But I think the fact that we actually have a shareholder actually questioning Sweet Baby Inc. shows that us speaking out about Sweet Baby Inc., making sure that we oppose this company, oppose what they're doing, oppose this injection of woke ideology is having an effect. There are now shareholders asking questions in financial web conferences and phone calls about Sweet Baby Inc. and companies like them. And the implication there being that it is a negative on the company and you're potentially driving away. We're looking at least over 404,000 people. It's probably a lot higher than that. Remember, this is just the people who are following on Steam. This maybe doesn't include people that are console players that do not play on PC, such as PlayStation 5 or Xbox or even the Nintendo Switch. So you would have to assume that there's probably a lot more than just this 400,000, potentially over a million or even more. And that is a powerful, powerful tool, especially when you're looking at something like the Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, bragging about having 500,000 in sales in the first 3 days that it's going out. When you have potentially over 1 million people that are opposed to this, not wanting to buy your game, you need people to buy your game. So that is a significant portion of the buying audience, and shareholders are rightfully taking that into consideration now. At least that is my opinion of this, and asking questions about Sweet Baby Inc. being involved in companies, Square Enix being the first one here. So this is a huge win. Obviously, Kiryu punting on it doesn't really give us anything, but huge win that the fact that shareholders are actually asking these questions. And that's why we will continue to report on this and continue to oppose this evil woke ideology that is being pushed by Kim Belair, her company, Sweet Baby Inc., and others like it. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.